Hey guys, and welcome to another Rise of Flight video. And in this one we're going to be featuring Raymond Collishaw. He's a British Canadian who flew for the British Royal Naval Service, or British Naval Air Service. It was newly formed. It was kind of like their naval aviators of the time, and the Naval Air Service was kind of a new idea. But these guys were land-based, even though they were experimenting with some early aircraft carriers and seaplanes and things like that. The squadron that Raymond flew out of, which was mostly number 10, or the infamous number 10, they did coastal patrols up towards the northern, the very northern part of the Western Front. So I mean, basically across the pond there were the cliffs of Dover, which was again featured during World War II as a major battleground. During World War I, because they didn't have the long-range capability, or as much, Germany did fly some Zeppelin blimps to bomb London and things like that. But to my understanding, most of the air war actually occurred on the Western Front. But there were still German patrols up there by the sea, and it's pretty wild because when you're looking at a World War I aircraft and you're seeing it operating by the ocean, it's just a little odd. You always imagine it operating near the trenches, kind of in the heart of the war, but they were out there near the sea, so it's kind of wild. His early life, when he was about 15 years old, to show you the kind of guy he was, he became a cabin boy on board a ship, and it was actually a rescue mission to go up into the Arctic and try to rescue some guys who I guess were lost during an expedition. Unfortunately, they were never able to recover them, or maybe I think they were dead by the time they got there. But at 15 years old, he was part of that, and then a few years later became a first officer. Applied for the British, the Royal Naval Air Service, and then eventually joined the number 3 squadron. During his time, there's a pretty interesting time. Before he actually flew fighters, he flew the Sopwith 1/2 Strutter, and I think he was part of 3rd Wing, which operated out of Auchy, France. So his first kills actually were in a 2-seater, in the 2-seater Sopwith 1/2 Strutter, and in one of them he actually, they were doing a huge raid on a rifle factory, on the Mauser rifle factory in Germany, and as the bombers reached the target, they actually got jumped by a bunch of German Fokkers, and he was able to position his aircraft so that his observer, which was also the gunner, was able to engage an aircraft. Aircraft took a few hits. He repositioned, actually engaged with his own forward-firing weapon, and was able to down the aircraft. And then there's a famous one. His 2nd and 3rd kills were actually, he was transporting an aircraft from the factory, and a bunch of the troops in the trenches were actually watching this battle happen. As he was transporting it, he was by himself, and he got jumped by 6 German aircraft. And so he dived down, because he liked fighting, I guess, close to the ground, and he was able to maneuver, and he took 2 shots, 2 quick bursts at the albatrosses that were fighting him, and he was able to defeat them. I'm not sure what aircraft that occurred in. I'm assuming that's the Sopwith 1/2 Strutter. And then eventually he transitioned over to the number 10 squadron and flew the Sopwith triplane. So the last 2 kills that, or excuse me, the 2nd and 3rd kills that Collishaw was able to get, he was actually awarded the Croix de Guerre from the French, because a bunch of troops, I guess it was such a morale booster, they observed it, and he was able to down the albatross. So a little bit of history concerning the Sopwith triplane. This was the direct competitor to the albatross, and around the time that Collishaw became the commanding officer of number 10 squadron, I'll show you his paint scheme here. I won't be using it for this flight because he's not yet the commanding officer. But he is successful because he does have some kills, and that was in the Sopwith 1/2 Strutter. The Albatross was the dominant aircraft in the sky at the time. During the Battle of Arras, which started on 9 April 1917, the British had launched a tremendous offensive to try to overtake the city, essentially. During that time, the best aircraft that the British had were the BE-2, the FE-2, and the Sopwith 1/2 Strutter, which were essentially two-seat bomber reconnaissance platforms. The Aircode DH-2 came out, which I demonstrated was not the best. It's that pusher aircraft that Hawker died in, that Richtofen killed Hawker in the Albatross, as well as the FE-8. The Newport 17 and the Sopwith Pup were decent fighters for the time, but they were outclassed by the newer Albatross models. And so in Bloody April, the British kill rate, or excuse me, casualty rate compared to the Germans was 4 times greater. And this was attributed to a number of factors. Also, the British flight school was shorter and quickened because they needed pilots on the front where the Germans would take their time. And this all contributed to an event called Bloody April, where the British suffered tremendous casualties. A couple of months after that, it's interesting how fast technology changed during the war. The Sopwith triplane was, I think, already here, along with the Newport 28, the SPAD 7, and later the SPAD 13. And these aircraft, the Sopwith Camel, the Sopwith triplane, the SPAD 7 and 13, they were able to compete with the Albatrosses finally. So this is kind of during a time where the British are essentially getting their butts kicked, and they need something. So the triplane is one of the few British aircraft that can actually compete. On this mission, we'll be going out on an escort run. We'll be escorting some bombers out over the lines into the Western Front, where the German troops are, past the German trenches. So it's a pretty unique opportunity to do an actual escort mission, and I don't think I was really aware that World War I pilots did escorts, but they did, and I think they were called bomber protection missions. So that's pretty cool. Let's get in the aircraft. Okay, so our bombers are actually flying overhead. And there they are. So we're going to rendezvous with them as they fly overhead. Still trying to get this engine started. There we go. We have a number of aircraft in this flight. Looks like 5 of us. And it looks like all the ailerons actually move on each individual wing, so that's pretty interesting. Probably gives it great maneuverability. Alright, here we go. I think we're going to do a left turn and just meet up with the bombers. They just circled the airfield here. It's a pretty nice way to do it. Take off when you see the bombers and just have them circle the airfield. Oh, never mind. I guess we're going to the right. So one thing I want to talk about with the Allied aircraft, you can see that there's only one Vickers machine gun on here, and from my understanding, most of the aircraft at this point just had one, while the Germans had 2 of the, I think it was called the IA-8, something like, or IOH-8 machine gun. And you could just simply by the numbers, 2 machine guns versus 1 clearly would give you much better firepower. So in Rise of Flight, you do have the option to equip 2 of them, and I imagine some squadrons or some aircraft did, but I don't know if it was due to machine gun availability, they just didn't have enough to go around, or whatever the case may be. But that was definitely another factor in why Bloody April occurred. So you can see the northern front here, or the north portion of the western front. There's actually, I don't know if those are marshlands, but those are the trenches there, and you can see just a bunch of water embedded in that. I can't imagine fighting in that. As if fighting in the trenches wasn't bad enough, fighting in muddy marshlands or in muddy trenches would just be a nightmare. Now, looks like my guys have found some enemy contact. Yep, that's an albatross. And so the Sopwith triplane did have the capability to maneuver and actually engage the albatross effectively. Oh, there's an albatross right there. Just barely clipped his wing here. Man, that guy came really close to us. Alright, continuing this turn here. So you can see how one machine gun is much more limited than having two in the front. Your probability of getting a hit is much higher with the two. Okay, let's try to anticipate his move here. And you can see, even though I'm not dominating this fight, I'm still able to stay in it. Oh man, that came close to him. Oh man, this guy will not die. There, you got him smoking a little bit. Now he's on fire. Alright. gone down. Excellent. I got another albatross. I think he might be smoking. Yeah, he's smoking a little bit, but he's still active. And these extra wings are just give you an incredible low-speed handling. So when you get really slow with the tri-wing, since you have so much lift, you can still stay in the fight, whereas the bi-wing would get pretty sloppy at a certain point. This aircraft maintains an incredible amount of control, and it enabled them to do kind of what I'm doing now, turning inside of his circle, inside of his turn radius, and still maintaining control. Now the obvious downside is the more lift you have, the more drag you're going to have. In other words, the more air resistance and surfaces for the air to kind of rub on and to slow you down. And so the downside of the tri-wings was they didn't have very high air speeds, even though they were very maneuverable. And eventually the bi-wing proved to be superior. Come on, man, give up your turn. Let me get inside here. This is right at the limit of flight here. We're very slow. Come on, do a little reversal for me. There we go. I'm afraid to look behind me, but I should check my 6. Okay, we're looking alright still. Still in this turn. I'm going to try to low yo-yo, which sounds kind of weird because we're so close together, but low yo-yo, you just bring the nose slightly down below the horizon, try to pick up some speed, and then try to come back up on them. Okay, well, let's try something different. Okay, straighten out a little bit for me, that's good. There we go. A few shots there. All right. Did I get him that time? I kind of cut up through his cockpit. Alright, he's still in the fight. Oh, we're still very close together here. Whoa, do not hit me, bro. Took another glancing shot at him there. Okay, come on. Well, he's getting shot at by ground fire now. This is quite an intense fight here. I think I might be out of rounds, so might be time to go. Yeah, he might have just dragged me through. Whoa. Oh, I cannot believe he did that. I was not expecting that. So I think he might have actually dragged me. I'm still on the Allied side. I'm still on the French side, but almost at the right in the middle of no man's land there. So I think he was getting engaged by ground fire. Well, that was kind of a sad ending, but I hope you guys enjoyed that video anyway, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright guys, so I figured I'd do a part 2, just talk a little bit more about this aircraft and maybe demonstrate a landing, because the last part didn't go so well. So hope you guys enjoy this. Alright, here we go again. And you got to kind of shove the nose down on these things sometimes, just to get the tail wheel off the ground, because I think what it would do is that was essentially your brake back there. So if you didn't get it off the ground, it would just drag through the grass and keep you slow. And if you want to brake, then of course you pull back on the stick and dig that tail skid into the ground. And there's certainly something about the Sopwith kind of Camel and triplane series. A lot like the Albatross, something just feels right about the aircraft. The handling, where things are positioned, visibility, even though the triplane is not ideal. I actually definitely prefer the biplane, and that's why the biplane eventually took over. I think was because of this restricted visibility and the speed restraint. And as modern pilots know, speed is life. Having energy, maintaining that speed gives you the capability to climb above the fight, and also to pick the terms of the engagement, to either pick when you want to run or when you want to engage. So I think there was a certain aircraft, I think the Newport, or actually the Spad. That's why they chose the Spad ahead of the Newport series. The Newport's rotary engine pretty much reached the limit of what rotary engines could do, to my understanding, and they really couldn't develop them anymore. So the inline engines were a lot nicer, and that's what the Albatross had, and attributed to its good performance. So that's why they eventually moved over to the Spad as being the superior aircraft. And then the Camel, I think, was considered probably the Spitfire of World War I. It was pretty incredible. So here we are, rendezvousing with the bombers here. It's pretty sweet to do an escort mission here. And you can see the ocean up there to the north. Try to get a little bit above the fighters, or the bombers, to try to have an altitude advantage. And I'm pretty sure this might be the 1/2 strutter, the 2-seater version. You look down there at the trenches. There's the water that I was talking about earlier, and you can see some water splashes from the artillery explosions. That would have been a nightmare to fight in that. I can't imagine. So one of the reasons why they developed the triplane, including Fokker, believe it or not, was to increase visibility. So you can see that big hole in the second wing there. You could look down through it. So that in order for them to have better visibility with the triplanes, they would decrease the chord line, or how long the wing was. So from the front of the wing to the back of the wing, they reduced that size because the biplane wing was pretty thick, and so you couldn't really look down too well or look up too well. But you can see it's pretty thin from the front of the wing to the back of the wing, and that's how they replaced the lift that was lost, by kind of shortening the wing up with from the biplane's design. Looks like they might be engaging something over there. or they might just be turning. I'm not sure what they're doing. There's the triplanes there. So it's kind of bizarre that the Fokker D1, which von Richtofen flew, the triplane, along with this aircraft, I think the thinking was to increase visibility, but as you can see, it's actually very hard. Restricts the visibility an immense amount and slows the aircraft up. That's why eventually they went to the biplane. This is one of those days where there's actually no clouds. There's some high-lying cirrus clouds up there, but there are no cumulus clouds, and the visibility is pretty good. So rare day in Rise of Flight where you get weather like this. Pretty cool. I haven't encountered any enemy fighters yet, but just keeping my eyes out. And we're still escorting these guys. Alright, and we're making our way back over the front. Back home now, escorting the bombers. You can see the bombers down there. And one thing you gotta love about this aircraft, you got a leather seat instead of a wicker basket. Pilot comfort's very important, so that's awesome. I'm pretty sure for the Sopwith pup, the fuel tank was underneath the pilot's seat. I don't know if it's the same for this aircraft. Probably it's in the same series, along with the Sopwith Camel. And then there was a siphon tube that went from the tank up into an upper tank, which is behind the cowling there, the instrument panel. And as far as I know, that's what that indicator is. It actually shows how effective the siphoning is from the lower tank to the upper tank, and if that's occurring or not. Alright, so it looks like the bombers are almost home. They're making their way down. Alright, bombers landed. Wow, such a beautiful simulator. This grass is awesome looking. And there's a yellow flare. I imagine that's the RTB symbol, but I'm not really sure. Alright, so since we're so close to the beach, it could resist. Doing a nice little flyby before we go home. And let's see how she handles in a dive. I got the blip switch on and idle power. RPM seemed just fine. Yeah, she's diving pretty well. Gone through 130 miles an hour. Alright, now it's starting to shake on me here. Not bad. Seems like 130, 135 might be the limit. Or she's starting to shake. Yep, she's starting to shake around 128 or so. And I guess the key to pulling out of that dive is just nice, easy pull out and not jerking it, because if you do, the rings will over G and rip off. So this is the channel map. And I got it on sale right now, but I think it's normally about $15. I'm using the, by the way, I'm using the Iron Cross edition, which is a standalone. And you can just buy whatever aircraft that you want. There's only two maps, the Western Front, which is free, and this channel map as well. It's pretty nice. And if you can actually fly across the English Channel here to the north, all the way up to the cliffs of Dover. I'll show you on the map if I can zoom in. That, yep. So here we are. Look how big this map is, and you can fly all the way across up there towards Dover. It's kind of crazy. Amazing what the Rise of Flight team has done with this. Alright, let's head back to base and land there. And one of the awesome things is just flying treetop level in these airplanes. One of my dreams is to actually, do something like this in real life. Obviously maybe not a World War I original, but any type of open cockpit aircraft. This is true flying, just the wind in your face, and flying low level must be extraordinary. Flying, low and slow. That's why people love the J3 Cub, I imagine, because you can open up the door and go really slow and just enjoy the scenery. So alright, so here's our base. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'll see you guys next time.